I was about 10 years old when I went to the site of the former Berta Residential School for the first time. I went with my dad, my mom, and my auntie Iona. And I remember seeing the buildings still standing in the town of Bertal, and I remember them sharing with me in a very age-appropriate way about the residential school and the residential school system, my grandparents' experiences, and the ongoing impacts of the residential school system. So in 2021, when the 215 hit the news and conversations started happening across the country about the rediscoveries, uncoveries of unmarked graves at sites of former residential schools. That hit close to home, I'm sure, for many of you, for many of our communities, and the same is true for my family and my community. And I often say, the stories of children not returning home from residential school are stories that our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents have been telling for generations, and has been ignored for so long. And when the 215 sparked that national, even international conversation about the residential school system and its ongoing impacts, it caused such a resurfacing of hurt and trauma across our communities, for our families, our survivors, intergenerational survivors. And I remember traveling, of course, with my dad when I first heard the news, and we kind of sat in silence together for a little bit when we were driving. And I was thinking, what can we do? How can we help our community find healing? How can we make sure that the awareness and education of the residential school system and its historical and ongoing impacts continue to happen? What can we do? And then we started talking and reflecting on the stories that my great-grandparents, Mildred and Donald, would share. And one thing that my uncle Donald said was that when he was at the former Berta Residential School, he wanted nothing more than to just run away and go home. And I think as an athlete, and as I talked about movement as medicine and movement as healing, the idea of people doing walks and marches to bring awareness during that time really resonated with me as an athlete and someone who found balance and healing through movement. So I started talking with my family, and I said, well, why don't we go back to the former Berta Residential School and walk around home to Bertel Sioux in honor of not only my grandfather's wishes, but in honor of all survivors from our community.